video, but I do want to talk about that we did set up an Act 20 LLC in Puerto Rico, so just want to break down a little bit as to how we did that. So I guess the big thing is you gotta have a lawyer or accountant, somebody to set it up for you. The Act 20 is a little complicated. A lot of paperwork and legal terms and stuff, and corporation stuff that I haven't really seen anyone recommend doing it on your own. Even people that do try to do it on their own will often end up hiring a lawyer to review stuff with them. So we did pay a lawyer, and ours, we actually went with one that was on the cheaper side, $8,000. I've seen usually between $5,000 to like $15,000 to set it up. And the way that the Act 20 works, the way that we're doing it, is actually my husband and myself are both going to be using it coming this year, so in 2019, and we're using it in different ways. So my husband owns a company that he owns less than 50% of the shares in the company. And so even though he's the CEO of that company, he is able to contract we're calling it a pass-through. It's not technically considered a pass-through, but he's contracting himself through his Act 20 corporation because his other owners in that company are able to hold him accountable. Basically, he can't make complete decisions on his own with his U.S.-based company. So he is a salaried employee under his Act 20 corporation. So his U.S. company contracts the Puerto Rican Act 20 corporation. The Act 20 corporation gives him a salary. The salary is less than half of his actual salary. So part of being a salaried employee is if you're the owner of the company, you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. So he's the owner of this company, and then everything else is just going to be dividends. So that's why we kind of nickname it a pass-through, even though it's not. And then the way that I'm going to be using it is actually a tiny bit more complicated, but basically, as a software developer for a very large company, they are contracting a group of contractors, and everyone else that works for those contractors are employees of that corporation, but they're going to be contracting my corporation. Well, the same corporation. We're going to use the same corporation. And then our Act 20 corporation, same thing. It's going to pay me a salary, and it's going to be dividends. So part of doing it this way is some people think that, oh, well, dividends, that means you need Act 22 as well, and that you have to donate $5,000 a year to a charity. But that's not true. So when you do Act 20, it also includes the dividends portion of what the Act 22 law includes. So the difference between Act 20 and Act 22 is one is kind of nicknamed active and one is passive. So if you are coming to Puerto Rico with a lot of cash, a lot of liquidity, a lot of assets, and you plan to buy stock when you get here, then Act 22 might be a good solution for you, and you can apply for it by yourself. It's a lot simpler to do, and you can donate $5,000 a year to charity and spend half the year on island. Whereas the one that we're doing, Act 20, we are working here, living here. You don't actually have to, the living and working here requirements aren't as bad for Act 20. I don't remember exactly what they are, but you actually could set up an Act 20 without living here, but then you don't get that 4% rate. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So the reason why we're doing all that crazy dividend stuff is because the reasonable salary that we're paying, where it's going to be my husband is going to do about half of his salary, and I'm going to do somewhere between a half and a third of my salary. The reason why we're doing that is because the salary that we're claiming is going to be taxed at the Puerto Rican tax system rate, which is a little bit higher than what the U.S. federal rate is right now. And then those dividends, the remaining money is taxed at 4%. And so, let's say hypothetically that your effective tax rate is 20% at half of your salary, and then the other half of your salary is taxed at 4%, so that brings your effective tax rate to the average of 20 and 4, which 24 divided by 2, 12. So it brings your effective tax rate down to 12%. So Act 22, you still end up paying taxes, but it just really lowers your effective tax rate. And we do live on island full time. We occasionally travel. My husband does more than I do. I think I only spend 2 to 4 weeks a year off island, whereas my husband probably spends about a week every 6 weeks or so. He'll be off island. But we love Puerto Rico, and so the Act 20 and Act 22 are not our reasons for moving here. It's just, while we're here and while we're eligible, why not? So yeah, we've lived here for six months, and we finally got that all figured out. And I had issues with my employer where they didn't want to contract a corporation. They wanted to contract me as an individual, but a whole bunch of policies and restrictions and stuff, and we found a loophole for me to do it. So looking forward to that. So yeah, I got some other advice I want to share. I have some other tips or experiences on this channel. I do want to share our dog is here now. He's 50 pounds, so that was, and also very excitable. Can't really trick anyone to thinking he's a service animal, so I can share some tips as to what we went through to get him here to Puerto Rico. See ya!